All right, guys, so welcome back. Now we're going to dive deeper into frequency separation, but before that, I told you need to do color correction before frequency separation, and you can actually do frequency separation before color correction. It depends, but I just like doing color correction before frequency separation. Okay, so we've talked about color correction. I've given you introduction to what frequency separation is, and now we're going to look at the tools. Remember, I showed you some tools at the beginning of the class, and I made mention of the mixer tool brush and also the clone stamp tool, right? And I showed you how the clone stamp tool works. On the clone stamp tool, you can choose the current layer, the current and below, which is going to select the current and below 1, 2. Then you can choose the all layers. It's going to select all these 3 layers. So under this frequency separation, I'm going to be using all these images, the second one and this third one. Okay, there are many other images I can use. If time permits, I'm actually going to bring in some other tutorials on other videos on other images. Okay, so let's dive right into the tools. The 2 important tools under frequency separation is the clone stamp tool and the mixer tool brush. And after you use this tool, then you can now start using the lasso tool and the rectangular marquee tool. Okay, so let's start with the mixer tool. This is the setting you're going to use for the mixer brush tool. When you choose this brush tool, make sure your hardness is at 0%. You can choose any size if you want, but make sure your hardness is at 0%, and make sure your brush is not bigger. I'm going to rasterize the layer. Make sure your brush is not bigger than the head or bigger than the eyes. Make sure it's actually very small, something like this, according to the way you want to paint. You can make it bigger and start making the brush containing 2 colors. Like you can see now, it's containing two sides, which is the color of the hair and the eyebrow, and also the color of the skin. So if I paint here, it's going to be affecting both the color of the hair and the eyes. So you need to make it very small so as to affect just the side you want to affect. For example, if I want to paint this side with a mixer tool brush, I want to make it bigger so that I start affecting like 3 colors from this side, and this side. I can't make it big like this. You need to make it smaller like this, and then you start painting, make it even smaller, and then you start painting. So that's the size you should not put in mind. You don't make it bigger and start painting like this, because it's now containing the color of the eyes and the color of the highlights, and also the shadows, and also the down part of a eyebrow. So it's very important to get the size of the brush right before you start using the mixer tool brush. Now once you get the brush right, you go ahead and you paint. You click on this. Sometimes your own will be like this. It will have some colors. Sometimes your own will have some red color or any other color that's there. But make sure, I'm gonna go back to it. Cancel. Let's go back to it. Now sometimes your own will be load brush like this. A color will be there, most especially the color on the foreground. So you just need to select it and go to clean brush. This one, do not touch this one because nothing's there, so there's no need for that. It's just the brush settings. Okay, so just close it. Now this one, make sure it's on clean brush. Make sure this one is selected. If this is not selected, anytime I paint, it's going to start staining the brush. You can see it has gone back. So meaning it's going to it's just as if you are painting over a face and you are doing makeup. So each time you do that, it will stain the brush. But we want to maintain a clean brush, and meaning anytime we apply the brush, we want to maintain a very clean brush. So you are going to turn on this one, which is, it says clean every brush stroke after use. Let me see if you can bring out that highlight. Okay, it says clean the brush after each stroke. So anytime I use the brush, it's going to clean it automatically instead of me coming here and clicking clean brush. So after that, you're going to choose your weight. Make sure your weight is 9, 6, 9, 10 to 14. I find 9, 10, 8 very okay for me. It depends, but if you want the effect to be high, you can use 14 to 20. That's if the skin is very rough, like the first picture I showed you then that I said we're going to use it later on in the video. I'm going to show you why you need a blur value that is high and blur value that is low. For this one, the skin is actually smooth, so whenever you are doing your frequency separation, the blur value should be high, meaning you need to increase the radius of the blur value, the Gaussian blur, because there are no much texture or rough or blemishes or pimples. So now make sure your weight is 9. I like using 9, 10 to 14, but I just find 9 and 10 very good. Load should be 75. This one should be 75. It's just the settings that works fine for a lot of people, so I also use these settings. Your mix should be 9 and not 100. Like I said, it's just the settings everyone use. Now your flow should be 100, meaning you want the brush to work 100%, and all of this you have to ignore and make sure this is 0. Make sure the angle is 0. The angle, you are going to see it's 0% here under the mixer, the brush settings, and all of this you don't need it except you want to do some special work. So now it's on sample all layers, so I'm going to turn it off because I don't want to sample all layers. I want to sample just the layer I'm working with. So it's just going to sample only the current layer. If I sample all layer, it's going to affect everything down here. So this is the setting of the mixer tool brush you are going to take. And now for the clone stamp tool, this is the setting you are going to take. The brush tool needs to be smaller, as small as the pimples you want to replace. Let's take for instance, I want to replace these pimples, so it's going to be as small as this, not as big as this. So make it smaller anytime you want to remove pimples, as small as the pimples or the blemishes are. That's how your clone stamp tool brush should also be. Opacity 100, flow 100, and all layers. You are going to turn this to current layer because you are doing frequency separation. So this should be current layer, except on some special cases you want to start transferring the features of the face and the rest part in other places. Okay, so this should be your settings. Your mode should be normal and the rest parts should be flow 100, opacity 100, this one 0. Sometimes it's actually good for you to choose a line, but I usually turn it off because I like selecting things manually and not let Photoshop select it for me. Alright, so those are the two brush settings, and for the lasso tool you don't need any. You just need to draw and use it, most especially when you choose the wrong Gaussian blur. You just need the lasso tool to keep blurring some places and drawing, because it's very hard for you to select. The lasso tool makes someone select something like this and just work on that place alone. Ctrl Z, instead of using the maskwell tool, which is actually going to pick some places you don't want to pick. So Ctrl D to deselect. Alright, so those are the tools for frequency separation, and now we're going to dive in on how to do the frequency separation using those settings and using those brush tools. Alright, so see you when we start doing frequency separation.